Let's go. Hi, Sylvia here. Welcome to my magical mundanity, a visual documentation of sorts of a slow creative life and an extension really to the letters that I send out monthly. Personally, a slow creative life means living aligned with what brings us joy, finding magic in every day, and spending time on things that light us up. Or as I recently read in Catherine May's newsletter, making space for our creativity. I don't know about you, but this feels a lot more expansive than trying to make time. I've also realized recently that I've not actually done a proper introduction yet on this channel. And as I'm putting it out as a podcast episode in my Substack as well, there's quite a few new faces. So welcome. And I want to take this opportunity to talk to you about my art journey so far and hopefully get to know you better in the comments section as well. And whilst I'm taking a little walk down this memory lane, you will be seeing me sketching out a sacral chakra mandala, which will be part of a collection that I'm currently working on. So if you're over here on YouTube watching the video, this is what I'll be doing. This collection, first and foremost, is for me because I want to have a visual representation of the chakras on my wall. But in the background and what I'm thinking in my head, I'm really working towards having a cohesive collection of mandalas as a portfolio of sorts. So feel free to put me on, get on with your things and just listen in. Or if you, like me, are someone who loves seeing process videos, I welcome you to just grab a cuppa and find a pause for a moment in your day. I consider myself to be an emerging artist with a desire to live a slow creative life, but the road to actually admitting it to myself has been quite long and winding. There have been plenty of detours, dead ends, and some quite high walls that have really kept me from giving myself permission to be an artist and even just wanting a simple life where I can devote my time, energy, and space to things that truly light me up. As a multi-passionate human being, I have tried so many different things, and if you've been with me for a while, you can probably attest to that. So thank you for sticking with me. And although I've dabbled in art my whole life, I've never really committed to it wholeheartedly. Art was just one of those things I was really good at in school, but I was never really encouraged to pursue it as a career option. In fact, my parents made me take an after-school tourism class as something practical to get into after high school. But that never happened, and sometimes I wonder if my dad hadn't passed when I was 16, where would this life path have taken me? Would I still be here now? Anyway, I digress. Languages were my other specialty at school, so fresh out of high school I wanted to become a translator, but the universe had other plans. I failed to get into the only university I applied for, and my plan was to study English. This, according to everyone around me, was a risky move. how could you just apply for one university? What happens if you don't get in? And all general doubts that people tend to put in our heads. But I didn't care because there was nothing else that I really wanted at that point. So when that plan fell through, I was devastated. Everyone was right. But through some weird coincidences, I ended up babysitting in Stockholm. So I ended up leaving Estonia to live in a brand new country at the age of 18. And art re-entered my life for a brief moment. I did some photography and started an art course at Stockholm University, which was at that time just way too theory rich, so I quit. I was craving something more hands-on, and I couldn't really find an alternative I liked in Sweden, and I was young and wild in quotes, and really in need of a change. So I moved to the UK, where after a year of just working and earning money and just surviving, I committed to art yet again. And this time I received my foundational degree in art and design from Bolton University. But artistically, I was quite torn between studying photography and interior design. And this time, others' opinions really did get to me. People around me were saying how difficult it was to be a photographer and get paid work. So I ended up picking interior design, thinking it was a safer bet. But I went against my own gut, and my heart wasn't in it, so I ended up quitting after 3 months. And at that point, the years started to pass, and I didn't really make much art. I moved around and just filled my days with odd jobs, but that little nudge just kept reappearing. So I finally did what my soul wanted to do years ago, and that was to study photography. And this time I stuck with it, and I graduated from Brighton University, which was, in hindsight, right in the thick of my Saturn return. And looking back now, knowing what I know about astrology and cycles, lots of things just make sense. I'm really thankful for this astrological lens that I now have in my toolbox of self-inquiry. It's not my intention to go any deeper at this point, but if it is something you want to hear more about, I am open for suggestions. Anyway, back to the memory lane. After graduating from Brighton University, I moved to Leicester with my partner Nick to be closer to his family. Seeing as he had moved to Brighton with me so I could study photography, it was only fair to return the favour. And since then I have acquired yet another degree, and this time it was Masters in Heritage and Interpretation, because quite a few years ago now I was going through a phase where I wanted to get into the cultural sector and work as a researcher. I guess part of me still does, and there's a part of me that will always love research, so it's definitely not something I've turned my back on. But yeah, you may spot a pattern here, and sometimes honestly I do feel like a magpie just hoarding shiny little objects, because why the hell not? And whilst I was adding yet another degree into my toolbox, I was also on a wellness journey. I had started to dabble in health and fitness because, to begin with, I wanted to lose weight, but then I discovered that I do actually love exercise, and most importantly, I love how it boosts my confidence and my self-esteem. But I found out that building a wellness business is not really my dream either. Yet, in that process of trying to build a wellness coaching business, I did realize one thing, and that is that I want to work for myself and I want to run a creative business. So I quit the wellness scene and instead picked up macrame, and I did start to build my own creative business by running a little Etsy shop for a while, which I think I always knew deep down wasn't quite it either. And then in January 2021, I was in a pretty bad bicycle accident which left me bedbound for quite a few months, which meant that I was really in a full-time care of my partner Nick. And it turns out, in hindsight, astrologically speaking, the accident was right on my nodal return, which happens every 18 or so years. And there were a bunch of other transits that just lined up. So yeah, that was that. I broke my femur. On my first nodal return, funnily enough, which happened when I was 18, 19, I left my home country, Estonia, and I moved to Sweden, which was also after a pretty low point. But this time around, what this injury did was it really forced me to slow down, physically, but also mentally. And I discovered all these esoteric modalities such as human design and astrology, and then the gene keys and the tarot, and I delved deep. And I feel that these modalities have really helped me make sense of my inner world and have provided me with a lens that allows me to have a good look at my life, make sense of things, and also find clarity for the path ahead. And it was possibly for the first time ever, I actually felt like I started to understand myself, and I started to understand my own patterns. And also I was able to stop shaming myself for certain things and for trying on all these different roles and not actually getting anywhere. And this deep dive into my inner world was really the biggest permission slip to just be me and to make space for things that delight me. And this brings us nicely to the present moment. So if you're still here, thank you for bearing with me and walking down this memory lane with me. And I want to share a catchphrase that has sort of been with me for the last, I'd say for the last year, but more like a couple of years now. And that is following my delight. It's these three simple words that have really become my guiding light and my North Star. And what I've realized is that all my life I've been afraid to commit because of everything I'd be giving up in the process. And if I had to pinpoint that fear of commitment, it would really be the fear of time running out, which, as it turns out, is our root chakra. That pressure to do all the things right this moment, because otherwise we might not get a chance, or that fear of not getting to do all the things we want to do in this life. And we overthink it to the point where we are paralyzed and not actually doing much at all. So we end up wasting time on meaningless pursuits, or we just keep throwing things out there hoping that something will stick, or we listen to other people and what they think we should do. But we all know that it never works. So in the end, I've found that by following my own delight, I've started to be able to walk with that fear of missing out without the need of giving into it. I've started to pay attention to what lights me up in the present moment. And when I do follow that thread, when I trust it, magical things do happen. I find magic in the mundane. I find myself making space for the projects that my heart is calling me to work on. And I find myself creating the things that I want to create instead of pleasing the outside world. I find that I'm finally committed to my art wholeheartedly because it lights a fire in my belly. Life without creating just no longer makes sense, really. So the only option left is committing. But I also know that it has taken me nearly 40 years to get to this point, where I have started to follow my own intuition and take intentional action according to it. And slowly I have started to trust my own pace and trust the timing of things and just trust my own energetic being. So here's a few questions for you, dear listener, dear viewer. What would happen if you started to follow your delight and create from a place of curiosity and awe? Where would that path lead you? And if you feel like sharing your thoughts, I'd love to hear them, so feel free to pop them in the comments. If any of it resonated with you, if you're new here, if it's your first time watching or listening, if any of it resonated, I would love to invite you to hit that subscribe button, either here on YouTube or over on Substack. We can be email friends. Either way, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for finding your way here. I will see you in the new calendar year. Take care.